That night, outside Curran Fromhold felt wild because a young dude was running across the open gate while a car rolled up fast with no hesitation, and the gunshot started snapping through the cold air before anyone could figure out what was happening. Everything looked chaotic because nobody understood why a kid was being hunted right in front of a jail. They said he was 16 and already feared in 3 neighborhoods, and they said 4 bodies dropped in 90 days, with one caught live on Instagram. Philly was spinning that winter, and a young boy named Ameen Hurst was right in the middle of everything. This is where the story really begins. West Philly felt tense during late 2020 because the gun violence numbers kept climbing, with teenagers carrying firearms everywhere and many crews building small reputations through fast retaliation. The police report showed the same trend because every week brought new shootings tied to young squads trying to build status through reckless behavior. YBC held ground in West Philly while YFA claimed corners in North Philly, with both groups building energy through drill culture and local alliances. People whispered about kids chasing clout points because scoring online attention became a twisted badge. Instagram pages fed everything because disrespect posts created sudden conflict without real warning. Arguments online turned into shootouts because social media pushed emotions faster than conversations on blocks ever could. Young boys stopped hiding their heat because the culture celebrated open pressure and quick moves. Ameen grew up around Winfield and Overbrook, where older YBC members already shaped the rules about loyalty and danger. His world included corners where groups hung out late and talked about music, money, and enemies. Teens passed phones around watching drill videos from Chicago and New York because those sounds shaped the rhythm of their own streets. Instagram Live became regular entertainment because kids streamed fights and arguments with no sense of long-term consequences. YBC and YFA kept bumping into crews from 39th Street and 0 to Day 4, and those tensions sat heavy through 2020. Ameen moved quietly in those early months because he watched the older guys build influence while learning how the streets measured respect. People later said Ameen always wanted to get behind a gun because he wanted to earn a name fast. His nickname started forming on the block because everyone saw how eager he looked whenever things heated up. Young shooters in Philly build reputations through social media reactions because every live clip or quick post adds pressure for real action. IG stories and direct messages created confusion because threats appeared everywhere without warning. Teens watched clips of each other brandishing firearms or dropping disrespectful phrases because the online fog kept everyone guessing about who planned what. Being 16 did not slow anything because Philly teens joined violent cycles younger every year. Ameen moved like someone ready to earn credit with his crew because he believed fear created opportunity. The city shaped boys fast during those months because the environment rewarded boldness over patience. Christmas Eve felt normal for Diawu Woo-Biddy Scruggs because he prepared for work and walked toward the bus stop while streaming himself on Instagram Live. Woo-Biddy smiled on camera because he always cracked jokes with his followers and carried energy that kept people entertained. The weather felt cold but calm, and nothing suggested danger was creeping behind him. He walked along Wynwood Road with his audience watching him talk about small things because the live stream brought comfort during his quiet commute. He had no idea a 16-year-old named Ameen Hurst followed him with full intent. Ameen crept behind him with slow steps because he wanted no mistakes during the approach. Witnesses later described the moment as sudden because multiple shots exploded without warning and Woo-Biddy's phone fell to the sidewalk. The camera pointed toward the sky while the gunfire echoed across the block. Hundreds of viewers watched confusion unfold because nobody could understand what happened. Police arrived to find Woo-Biddy on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds because the shooter already disappeared. Officers later confirmed he died at the scene because the attack left no chance for survival. Scruggs had no gang ties because he focused on comedy and simple routines around West Philly. People across the neighborhood talked about the murder because everyone knew Woo-Biddy as a harmless kid who brought laughter to his friends. Rumors spread that Ameen wanted to catch a body on camera because the street believed clout came from shocking violence. Some neighbors claimed Ameen targeted the wrong person because Woo-Biddy looked similar to someone else from a rival group. Others believed Ameen simply wanted attention because shooting someone during a live stream felt like a twisted badge. The community felt sick after the news because the murder exposed how far things slipped. Police quietly gathered information because tips pointed toward a young YBC affiliate with something to prove. They matched timing and street chatter because several teens claimed Ameen bragged days earlier about building a reputation fast. YBC members dropped small hints online because clout whispers always travel. Detectives built suspicion around the 16-year-old because every lead pushed toward his name. Nothing was public yet, but investigators knew the shooter moved fast and carried confidence beyond his age. YBC clashed with 39th Street and Zero Today 4 long before Ameen picked up real heat because these groups traded small incidents across West Philly for years. Old fights, robberies, and disrespect posts fueled anger because none of these crews backed down once lines were crossed. The tension settled into patterns where certain blocks became dangerous depending on the time of day. Ameen entered this world wanting respect fast because fear pushed reputations higher in these circles. YBC needed shooters willing to move quickly because rival crews acted the same way. Social media added gasoline because teenagers regularly posted mocking captions and short videos showing firearms or threatening phrases. IG stories became the battlefield because threats disappeared in 24 hours, but the impact stayed much longer. Drill songs mentioned local crews because kids wanted to sound fearless in their music. Live comments during arguments made teens react instantly because they felt embarrassed if they stayed quiet in front of viewers. Every neighborhood watched these online battles because kids treated them like entertainment. Ameen became the shooter because older YBC homies hyped his confidence and encouraged him to take risks. They liked how he handled pressure because he never hesitated when conflicts appeared. Stories later surfaced about Ameen talking about proving himself because he saw attention as currency. Witnesses described him as hungry for validation because he talked often about showing the city he was different. People around the area said he moved like he needed to become the most feared younger kid in West Philly. This mindset pushed him deeper into the feud because everybody increased his status among reckless teenagers. That night in Overbrook Park carried heavy energy because 4 young men from Zero to 4 and 39th Street chilled inside a parked car near the 1400 block of North 76th Street with no idea trouble already crept toward them. The street felt quiet but tense because those crews lived inside a nonstop feud with YBC, and everyone knew certain nights moved strange when the temperature dropped low. The group inside the car talked softly because the block stayed still and no one expected anyone to pull up that late. Ameen walked through the alley with slow steps because he planned everything carefully while staying low behind the houses. He moved like someone who watched older shooters operate because his approach looked calculated and steady. He slipped through shadows toward the parked car because he wanted the upper hand before anyone noticed movement. His setup looked strategic because he positioned himself on the blind side of the vehicle. The entire moment felt like a small military-style strike because he lined the shot before making any sound. Gunfire erupted suddenly because he started firing without hesitation and kept shooting until the group scattered. The block echoed with sharp shots because the weapon snapped repeatedly in the cold air. Witnesses later said the attack lasted seconds because Ameen backed away quickly after hitting multiple targets. 2 young men died that night because Naquan Smith and 17-year-old Tamir Lil Tam Brown got hit fatally during the ambush. 2 others survived with serious wounds because they managed to escape the direct line of fire. Families rushed toward hospitals because news spread fast across West Philly. Smith's people cried outside their home because the shock hit them instantly. Tamir Brown's family collapsed emotionally because he was still a high school student with little street history. Street rumors flooded social media because everyone posted reactions before police confirmed details. People whispered that the shooter came from YBC because the style matched earlier tension. Blocks across West and North Philly talked about it nonstop because the bodies raised the stakes quickly. Ameen sent a chilling message days later because he contacted someone connected to Tamir Brown and typed, "Pick your mans up," on Instagram like the killing meant nothing. The disrespect shook people because he mocked Tamir's last words by repeating, "I'm hitting my neck," with cruel humor. Screenshots moved through group chats because everyone wanted proof the message actually came from him. Gossip ran crazy in every corner because no one believed a 16-year-old showed that level of coldness. Jail phone calls later confirmed everything because recordings caught Ameen laughing about the ambush like it was entertainment. He told someone the Overbrook shooting felt like the funnest John I ever did while talking with an upbeat tone. Prosecutors listened to those calls with disbelief because his laughter revealed no remorse or hesitation. Those recordings became key evidence because they showed mindset and intent with no room for confusion. 3 months passed with multiple shootings linked to similar patterns because each attack carried the same timing and confidence. Detectives studied ballistic matches and behavioral details because they saw signs pointing toward a single teenage gunman. Internal investigators flagged weapon similarities because the shell casings matched across several scenes. Officers quietly moved through neighborhoods gathering small clues because the spree looked too consistent to ignore. The name Ameen Hurst kept reaching police desks because gang intel placed him near earlier incidents. Several informants mentioned his growing reputation because everyone claimed he wanted status through violence. Detectives started watching corners connected to YBC because that crew gained attention quickly during those weeks. Surveillance teams moved quietly through West Philly because they wanted confirmation without causing street panic. Police finally held a press conference naming Ameen as a suspect for the Christmas Eve murder of Daewoo Scruggs. Reporters shared his photo across city outlets because the public needed awareness immediately. The announcement pushed the tension higher because everyone realized a 16-year-old kid tied to several shootings still moved freely. Ameen probably heard the news because street chatter traveled fast, and his crew understood police pressure grew heavier. YBC heard that a rival from 39th Street known as Sid planned to get released from Curran Fromhold Correctional Facility that week. Word traveled quickly because those crews monitored release schedules closely. Ameen and several associates started planning because catching a rival during release looked like an easy opportunity. The crew pulled up near the prison around 1 a.m. because they wanted to intercept their target immediately. Rodney Hargrove Jr. stepped out of CFCF shortly after midnight because he posted bail on a minor case after spending 1 week inside. He walked toward the SEPTA bus stop across State Road because his family needed time to arrive. Rodney had no connection to YBC, 39th Street, or any ongoing beef. He simply waited at the stop wearing regular clothes because he expected a quiet ride home. He stood near the pole texting family members because he believed the night was already behind him. Rodney saw a dark vehicle approaching quickly because instinct signaled danger suddenly for reasons he could not explain. He ran toward the prison gate because that felt like the safest place available. The front gate stayed open because no guard monitored that entrance during late hours. Ameen's crew drove straight through the same open gate because nothing blocked their path. Shots fired near the prison entrance because the attackers jumped out and opened fire repeatedly. Rodney fell near the parking area because multiple bullets struck him instantly. The vehicle rolled over his body before speeding away because the attackers wanted no loose ends. Ameen bragged later on a video call that they hit the wrong person after realizing Rodney had no connection to Sid. He laughed while describing the moment because he treated the mistake like a joke. His tone shocked investigators because he spoke casually about killing an innocent man. Rodney's family cried in interviews because they believed he should have been safe after leaving custody. His father stood with reporters asking how a young man could die steps from a correctional facility. The city expressed outrage because the open gate exposed a serious security failure. Residents questioned the entire prison system because nobody understood how armed men drove inside without challenge. This murder became the final breaking point because authorities could not ignore the brutality or confusion surrounding the killing. Public pressure pushed city officials to respond quickly because outrage increased every hour. Internal investigations began immediately because the prison gate should never have remained unattended. Detectives shifted full attention toward Ameen because every clue pointed directly at him. Within days, police formed teams dedicated to finding him because they feared further violence. The push to arrest him became urgent because the spree already stretched across neighborhoods for 90 dangerous days. Police located Ameen on March 20th because surveillance teams tracked his movements through different West Philly blocks with steady patience. Officers closed in on him near a quiet section of the neighborhood because they believed any delay might risk another shooting. He was taken into custody without incident because he realized running made no real sense with police everywhere. Detectives moved him into holding quickly because they wanted no distractions or complications. Charges stacked against him immediately because investigators connected him to several major scenes. He was charged for killing Daewoo Scruggs on Christmas Eve because evidence placed him directly behind that attack. He was charged for killing Naquan Smith during the Overbrook ambush because ballistic reports matched the same weapon. He was charged for killing 17-year-old Tamir Brown because witnesses confirmed he fired into the parked car. He was charged for killing Rodney Hargrove outside Curran Fromhold because surveillance cameras supported the full timeline. Detectives added attempted murder charges for the 2 injured survivors from the Overbrook shooting. They added robbery charges for 2 armed stick-ups he committed around early 2021. Multiple gun charges followed because he carried illegal firearms during several incidents. Informants began speaking because a young witness from the neighborhood stepped forward reluctantly. That witness confirmed several details about YBC movement patterns because he knew conversations happening behind closed doors. His testimony helped detectives strengthen their case against both YBC and the allied YFA crew. Ballistic results tied multiple shootings together because the same ammunition type showed up repeatedly. Investigators reviewed Instagram DMs and found conversations hinting at Ameen's involvement. Surveillance footage from Overbrook Park and State Road supported the larger timeline because it captured vehicles and movements clearly. The entire case gained weight because each piece matched the next without confusion or contradiction. Ameen entered custody acting relaxed because he treated the charges like something that came with the lifestyle. Guards later stated he somehow obtained a contraband phone while inside the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. He used that phone to hop on Instagram because he wanted everyone to know he stayed confident. Witnesses said he posted joking reactions about the charges because he liked acting unfazed. He treated the situation casually and laughed about it during several monitored calls because he never showed regret or concern. Street culture reacted in different ways because young teens often view violent shooters through strange lenses. Some kids called him a demon and posted support for him because they thought fear created legend. Others felt disgusted because the crimes crossed too many boundaries for admiration. Old heads on Philly forums debated his actions because they believed he destroyed families without reason. Younger users argued online because they wanted to explain why teens idolize shooters who represent strength in dangerous neighborhoods. Some believe kids hyped violent figures because they grew up thinking danger meant respect. Others blame drill culture because music often portrayed shooters as heroic figures. Families of victims struggled through overwhelming pain because each killing affected entire communities. Wu Biddy's family mourned a kid who only wanted to make people laugh because he lived peacefully. Smith's and Brown's families expressed heartbreak during interviews because their sons never returned home. Rodney Hargrove's relatives described deep trauma because he died minutes after leaving prison. These families carried the weight across months because the violence touched multiple neighborhoods. The pain spread everywhere because the spree left scars that shaped entire blocks. Security failures inside the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center created the perfect opening because staff shortages left several areas unguarded. Ameen shared a unit with 24-year-old inmate Nasir Grant inside a section that was supposed to be watched closely. That module remained unstaffed around evening hours because guards were stretched thin. A fence behind the unit had a cut section because someone sliced a triangular opening earlier without detection. No guards sat inside the perimeter towers because the prison struggled with severe staffing issues. Ameen and Grant slipped into the yard unnoticed because nobody monitored their movement. They crawled through the fence and stepped into the outside world because nothing blocked their exit. Their absence went unnoticed for 19 hours because head counts were performed incorrectly. Officers marked inmates present even though several checks showed inconsistencies. The situation created confusion once staff realized 2 prisoners vanished because panic shot through the administration. The news embarrassed the entire city because residents learned that 2 inmates walked out freely. Government officials held emergency meetings because the situation exposed major weaknesses in prison operations. A massive manhunt began immediately because authorities believed Ameen posed extreme danger. United States Marshals joined local police because national support was necessary. News outlets shared his picture across Philadelphia because public safety was at risk. Residents felt concerned because a teenager connected to four murders moved freely across the city. Police searched West Philly blocks, North Philly corners, and Delaware County areas because they believed he might hide close to familiar places. Ameen traveled to New York City during part of his escape because he wanted to feel untouchable. He rented a Manhattan studio with his older brother because he wanted to record music. He made drill songs while hiding because he thought the situation increased his notoriety. He tried turning the escape into mythology because he liked the image of being unstoppable. He returned to Philadelphia after several days because he believed police lost track of his location. That return showed false confidence because marshals already monitored movements tied to his associates. They tracked him to the Cobbs Creek section of West Philly near the 6100 block of Washington Avenue. Officers surrounded the area and moved in carefully because they wanted no chase. He was arrested after 10 days on the run because marshals cornered him quickly. The capture ended his brief moment of freedom because authorities refused to risk further danger. Detectives built a huge pile of evidence because every piece strengthened the case against Ameen. Investigators pulled his Instagram DMs and saw messages hinting at involvement in several shootings. They reviewed jail calls that captured him laughing about bodies like everything felt normal. GPS data placed phones around scenes because location records never lie about movement. Eyewitnesses stepped forward when pressure increased because people wanted the violence to stop. Forensic teams matched casings from Overbrook Park and Wynwood Road because the same weapon pattern kept repeating. Everything connected tightly because the spree left trails across multiple neighborhoods. The courtroom filled on November 1st, 2024, because people wanted to see how the case would unfold. Deputies brought him inside wearing shackles because security followed strict rules for defendants with multiple homicides. The judge read all 28 counts slowly because each charge carried heavy weight. Ameen responded with guilty each time because he did not fight any accusation presented. His calm demeanor surprised several observers because he barely blinked when hearing the details. Prosecutors watched closely because they expected resistance that never came. Ameen pleaded guilty because the evidence stood too strong to challenge successfully. His legal team understood there was no realistic chance of walking free. They knew multiple confessions appeared in calls because his own words destroyed any defense. The pressure from 4 homicide cases sat heavy because trials would expose every detail publicly. Entering a guilty plea ended a 3-year legal saga because the city waited long for closure. His decision removed the possibility of jury drama because facts already made the outcome clear. The judge delivered a breakdown of consecutive terms because the crimes stretched across several incidents. The sentence included time for 4 murders because each victim's case carried its own structure. Additional years applied to the attempted murders because 2 survivors lived through serious injuries. Robbery charges added more time because those crimes showed clear intent and danger. The escape charge increased the total sentence because fleeing custody revealed continued threat. Everything stacked until the final number reached 55 to 110 years. Families spoke in court because the moment allowed them to voice their pain directly. Rodney Hargrove's relatives told the judge they still struggled daily because an innocent man died outside a prison gate. Tamir Brown's family explained how losing a 17-year-old changed everything because the house felt empty every night. Naquan Smith's people shared memories that highlighted his importance because he meant more than the street suggested. Friends of Daewoo Scruggs talked about his comedy videos because he spread humor before the shooting ended everything. The judge addressed Ameen with serious tone because lack of remorse appeared throughout the record. His behavior during calls showed brutal disregard for human life because his laughter carried no empathy. The judge expressed concerns for public safety because the spree demonstrated a pattern beyond normal violence. Court officials believed he showed dangerous confidence because nothing slowed him until capture. The sentence reflected those concerns because society required protection from similar acts. Ameen would not see parole until his mid-70s because the timetable left almost an entire lifetime behind bars. His future looked confined to correctional facilities because release appeared unlikely. He would spend decades in prison routines because his adult life started inside concrete walls. The reality settled slowly because he knew the outcome locked his entire path permanently. Ameen's name lingered across Philadelphia because the spree shocked several neighborhoods deeply. Teens talked about him in small groups because the story felt unreal to younger kids. Some called him a crashed-out figure because he threw everything away before adulthood. Others mentioned his name like a street myth because people loved repeating wild stories. His reputation stayed complicated because admiration and disgust mixed in strange ways. YBC and YFA lost momentum because investigations dismantled many structures after multiple arrests. Several members faced charges because the city focused heavily on West Philly crews. The downfall came quietly because law enforcement worked steadily across months. Those crews lost influence because the violence brought too much attention from authorities. The city continued battling youth gun violence because social media still pushed clout-driven behavior. Instagram lives, DMs, and drill lyrics shaped reactions because teens followed patterns they saw online. Communities tried supporting younger kids because they wanted to prevent another situation like Ameen. The story reminded families why guidance mattered because teenagers move fast without understanding consequences. Philly remembered the victims because each life carried meaning beyond headlines and court dates. Scruggs made people laugh online because he entertained without hurting anyone. Brown and Smith came from families that cared deeply because their deaths left lasting heartbreak. Rodney Hargrove represented a tragic mistake because he died minutes after stepping into freedom. Their stories shaped the conversation because real lives faded behind violent moments. The legacy of this case sits heavy because it reflects deeper issues across the city. Many believe the situation revealed how fast kids can reach dangerous points without support. Others believe harsh cycles shape the entire environment because resources remain limited. People talk about Ameen as a warning because he showed what unchecked anger and clout chasing can produce. His years behind bars represent a hard ending because the story offered no real victory for anyone involved. Philly kept talking about this story because it showed how fast things can collapse when pressure and clout run the streets. Ameen moved like he wanted a name before he even understood what that name would cost. 4 families buried loved ones because one teenager chased a reputation he never lived long enough to enjoy. The neighborhoods dealt with the fallout because every corner carried memories from those 90 days. His sentence locked the rest of his life inside concrete walls because the courts believed he earned nothing lighter. People still mention his name sometimes because the city never forgets stories that dark. The real lesson sits with the younger kids listening because they see how fast things can go wrong when violence becomes entertainment.